Hey everybody, Roland Frasier here, and I'm really excited. Jay Abraham and I wrote a book. Tony Robbins wrote the introduction. Also, Damon John wrote the foreword. Gino Wickman from EOS wrote the preface. It is a very cool book. And to launch it, Jay and I have created a series of video interviews with him and me talking about different chapters. So we wanted to share this with you on social and on our podcast so that you were able to participate and kind of see what was going on behind the scenes. So these are videos and clips where I'm talking with Jay about introducing each chapter or each section of the book. So you'll hear us talk about the book, but we still wanted to share them here because I think there's some good insights, some good stories, and some good takeaways for you. So enjoy and understand that anytime I'm talking about a section of the book or the book, it's because these are the videos that go on the front of each video training related to the book. We just wanted to share the takeaways and kind of the conversational back and forth with Jay and me with you guys. I hope you enjoy it. And now it's going to play. Okay, so we're moving through, and whether depending on how you guys are consuming these courses, this training, you may or may not have gone through everything that leads us to where we are right now. All of these things stand on their own, so it's okay if you haven't. But if you are going in order in part 2 of the book that Jay and I wrote, the first part is the first chapter in that part is about achieving maximum growth. Basically, how do you think bigger? How do you think about moonshots? The second part is how to think better and goes through several mental models. Then the third part is talking about optimization and how you get leverage, how you use levers and fulcrums to have less effort that results in a significantly greater yield of results for you. Now we're going to talk about, I'd say, Jay, this to me is probably what I see you being most excited about because it's what I hear you talking about more than anything else. And so I'm excited to be talking about this right now because I know how passionate you are about it. And that is drivers of exponential growth. Want to talk a little bit about what does exponential mean, all the different iterations of that. And kind of, I'd love for you to think about how this came about. You were talking about linear versus exponential. If you'd share some of that, and let's dive in.
Well, it's the first thing is I was impacted earlier in my life with, we talked a little bit about variability. You do something one way, it produces X. You do it another, it produces 3 or 5 or 8X. Now you do it one way and it's a static sale. You do it another way and it's sales forever. And that it's the same amount of time or less, effort or less, opportunity or less, risk less, all those things, money or less. And then I started thinking about all the different ways. And I have an advantage that most people don't. We've tried to share that advantage with everybody. I have had a life and a career traveling figuratively and literally around the world and around the world of business. I've been actively involved in this is a lot, over 1,000 industries, not businesses. I've gotten to look at thousands of different ways to go after a prospect, thousands of different business strategies, thousands of different ways of marketing, thousands of different business models, thousands of different distribution approaches. And I've been able to understand literally how to take a ton of them and bring them to bear in places where everyone else in an industry does things linear the same way. Then as I started explaining, I wanted to study, okay, so I want to know, well, what is incremental? What is exponential? And I studied and I found out that really and truly there's much higher performance beyond even exponential. So if you don't think you can really grow something by orders of magnitude, think again. It is very, very doable just by shifting the way you do things. So that was the first thing. And then I started working through. When I started, the first thing I discovered or I pioneered was the 3 ways to grow a business. But then I thought, okay, what's the next? I call it, power, force, and source. And I thought, okay, what are the easiest small changes that will produce the biggest upside compound impact? And I created what's called the 9 drivers. They're the 9 drivers of exponential profit performance. They are simple things you can shift that produce massive increases in outcome and income. I mean, everything from changing your strategy, changing your business model, changing your distribution channels. There's 9 of them. Then I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. And then about a year later, because I was working with different industries, I realized you can create what's called a power parthenon. It uses a militaristic point of view, which is called force multiplier effect. If you and I, Roland, were at war with each other and I wanted to defeat you unquestionably, I wouldn't just deploy one thing. I would do all these things concurrently. I would do surface to air missiles, bombs, attack drones, tanks, and infantry, all kind. I would knock out your infrastructure, your communications, your Wi-Fi, your harbors, your airports, and I wouldn't care which one worked. I just want one to work. So that was the next one. Then I created the next one, which was basically the the assets of absolute advantage. Then I came up with the rules for relevancy and on and on. And I ended up doing this. I came up with 97 separate, very high performance, exponential performance factors, categories that any one of which gives performance outsized, upsize. It will produce beyond exponential potential growth with almost no investment or risk. And I just kept adding as I had more and more worldly experience seeing how other businesses did it. Tony Robbins said something about me, and he said it about my work. He said, if what you do in a business is plus or minus 10, 20% better or worse than everybody, if it's better, you get a little advantage. If you can figure out things that nobody understands that are much higher performing and you're the only one in the industry to do it, you get an explosive advantage. We want you to have an explosive advantage once you get control of this business, because the game you're playing is get control for very little or none of your own capital, blow up, by orders of magnitude the earnings so that you can do an epic exit for a mammoth payday and then do it over and over again, or use it to grow your existing business by orders of magnitude so that you have this massive money machine.
Exactly. And in terms of maybe some examples to help people personalize this, or maybe just grasp it better, anything that you'd like to share that is an example of kind of a before and after story of exponential growth and a particular driver or strategy that helped with it?
Yeah. I mean, one of the mechanisms, and there's some overlap. You talk about you change how you use relationships. So I got into the gold brokerage business in the early heydays of it, when it really started taking off, and everybody was using paid advertising in financial publications, Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Forbes, Fortune, and they were getting a modest result because most of the people there weren't into this. But I realized that the real audience were all the subscribers to the high end newsletters that were serious investors who believed in hard assets, gold,
Yeah.
silver, collectibles, real estate. And I went to all of them and I got my client, a gold brokerage, to be the recommended provider. And then we ended up, when anybody was a new subscriber, we would end up, first of all, giving a package of materials on us with the new subscriber package. 4 times a year, we would underwrite doing a special edition on the outlook for gold. We got the endorsement of the editor, so we were the recommended choice, the provider. We did regional training programs under the auspices of the newsletter. I did that with 40 newsletters, and we didn't pay a penny up front. We just shared a small amount of the revenue we got from brokerage fees. And we went from starting off at 300,000, we were doing $500 million, 500, comma, 00, comma, 00, 2 years later. And we went from literally having about 1,000 clients to 500,000 at the same time. And we became and by the way, we also had multiple size more average sale, multiple size more repeat sale. So it's a very powerful, that's one story.
I love that. I think it's really cool when you study too how fast companies have grown and how they're growing faster and faster. Like how long does it take to get to $1 billion? And you watch different companies and now they're in the days, and just like in a few days, a company like ChatGPT or a company or an offshoot of a company like Threads from Facebook, even if it might not ultimately maintain its momentum, which I don't think it's gonna, and it hasn't, but certainly some of the AI companies have, and they're all growing exponentially. They're using the same iterations of things Jay's talking about here and the same drivers to achieve these massive results. And it's, how do people get to be billionaires at 20 years old or 30 years old instead of 50 or 80 or never? And the answer is these exponential growth drivers. And so we really want you guys, this is to me one of the greatest opportunities for you to accelerate your success far, far, far beyond what you imagine possible. So if you know how to think bigger, so you know this is possible, this is how all this stuff ties together, guys. You've got the moonshots. The moonshot is maybe for you, I want to be worth $1 billion, or I want to reach 1 billion users, or whatever. That's possible. It's not something everybody should roll their eyes out and say, oh yeah, good luck with that, because people have done it. People are doing it. It is absolutely possible because they thought big and took the moonshots. They applied the right models. They found the right levers to pull. They optimized the correct way. And then they activated and deployed the exponential drivers to get the growth exponentially. And you've seen it. You've seen in the news all of these successes. These successes are not unicorns, even though they call them that. Anybody can do this. You guys can too. And what you've got here is the playbook for doing it. So definitely dig in here. It is rich and deep in value for you.